YouTube, we are back with another video. Now this one is going to be a little bit different from the rest. More recently it's been vlogs, it's been training days, it's been full days of eating. Now we're just going to do a sit down chat of how I lost 26 pounds so far of body fat in the last 10 weeks. So we're going to cover my steroid cycle, the start point, where it's at now, the food, the start point, where it's at now, the cardio, the start point, where it's at now, the steps, start point, where it's at now. So this one I feel like will be a shorter video, but it's just going to go over where I started. So I'm just going to put the pictures there in terms of where I actually started. Body composition wise, that was how I was looking compared to now. And like I said, that's been in the space of 10, now going into 11 weeks. So yeah, it's a bit of a dramatic change. And I wanted to make this video because I feel like sometimes it's maybe hard to understand how these things can change so quickly, but it does come down to one, sticking to the plan and setting out to do what's been set, but also it's understanding what I'm doing right now. Obviously, I need to be 100%. I need to be 100% to be able to make it work, and obviously this isn't what most people need to do. You don't need to lose 26 pounds of body fat in 10 weeks. You don't need to attempt it. You could just go at a steadier rate. It depends on your circumstance, it depends on what your goal is and what you want to stick to. But I did want to make this video because I feel like it's an important one to cover, because people are going to be interested in what I'm taking, in the cardio that I'm doing. This doesn't mean it's going to work for you though. So what I want you to bear in mind is I spent a long time growing, having my food at a higher point, getting myself at a higher body weight, not necessarily where I'm comfortable with, and solidifying that I'm building the muscle tissue. So it's obviously a little bit different to last year. So last year, I'm going to put a start point there actually. So last year, this is where I started and that's where I finished. So that's when I stepped on stage. Now, the difference is this year compared to last year, when I started prep when I was already dieting. So I was already in a fat loss phase when I then decided to prep. But my diet phase last year looked very different. I was going out drinking once a week. I was eating a takeaway maybe once a week or a meal out once a week. The accuracy was there in terms of the tracking across the week. But what I would do is I would have my calories lower across the week so then I could compensate for the weekend. But then when I went into prep then turned into meticulousness, like it is now. But the issue that I had there was my food wasn't in a high enough point. So when we actually started prep, we had to bump food up and then from there slowly trickle down. But it did mean that my food had to be at a lower point, lower than what it's probably going to be this year. And cardio was probably higher than it's going to be this year, just down to the fact that I didn't start in the greatest position. Whilst this year, due to an off season, down to the fact that we grew and actually put food in a very good fucking spot, well, we're in a better position, better start point, which means we should have a smoother prep. But I'm glad that last year happened because it made me realise that having that start point solidified and having a very good starting point to start a diet is important. It's just as important as just stepping into a diet itself, because if you have a bad start point in terms of you've got too much body fat, your calories are inconsistent, the first thing we need is some sort of consistency with calories to then put ourselves in a position where we can slowly trickle things down. But let's get into the video. So we'll start with the cardio. The cardio to begin with was 4 times 20 minutes per week on the Stairmaster, aiming for the heart rate of anywhere between 130 to 150. That's generally where I aim for. Now, at the beginning, I was actually getting a little bit higher than 150. Then I realised last year my legs were like fucking strings, and it's because I was going a little bit too ham on the Stairmaster. So this year it's more about actually keeping it between that and not trying to go above that. Food, 400 carb, 200 protein, 35 fat. Now, this would have been different from training day to non-training day, but I believe it was like 350 carb on a non-training day, 215 protein and 35 fat. On a training day, it was 400 carb, 200 protein, 35 fat. So obviously the difference is mainly down to the fact that training day, you're going to be expending more energy, you need a little bit more food, you're going to be having a pre-workout meal, post-workout meal, which is obviously going to be consisting of carbs. So you are going to need a little bit more food on those days. So that's why there's going to be different days. And I recommend that for anyone to be fair. If you're training and you're resistance training, having different days is going to benefit you so much, because one, if we're talking being in a calorie deficit, you are going to need less energy on a non-training day. You are going to need less food on a non-training day. So it's a way to create a calorie deficit rather than sticking with the same amount of calories across the week, and having different days that you can manipulate. So you can change and drop your non-training day food, keep your training day food high, and then adjust your training day food when you need to. Then we get into the steroid cycle, okay, which is probably what you clicked the fucking video for. So the first 2 weeks, we just started with lipolytics and fat loss aids. So Clen 40 micrograms per day, and then T4 at 100 micrograms per day. But then after the 2 weeks, we kept Clen at 40 micrograms, then T4 at 100, and then we implemented test at 300 milligram per week, which is my level of tolerance. I can't go any higher than that, otherwise I get side effects, spots, and all that jazz, which I've spoke about in a previous video, which I've experienced before. There are other side effects that you can get as well, but the main one that I experience is going to be acne. And then Mastron in Anthate at 400 milligram per week. So yeah, we split that across 4 to 5 jabs in the week. Main reason being, and I feel like this is something that some people don't know, is you split the jabs more across the week to have less peaks and troughs with your bloods. So essentially, if you do a cycle, or you choose to do one down the line, don't just decide to do this amount because that's what I'm doing. Don't do it. If you are considering it, you need proper guidance. Actually think about what you're doing and get everything rectified first in terms of your training, your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, all of that stuff. Otherwise, don't bother doing it. If you are wanting to do it though, do it as safe as you physically can. It's not safe, but you need to be in a position to be able to afford the health supplements, the bloods, and the regular checks to keep you healthy, okay? But your start point will not be this. Yeah, so I just want to make that clear, and it should not be something that you mimic, but I just want to be transparent and honest about what I'm doing right now, because this is the reality of what I'm doing in this prep. And then we go into now. So cardio now, 5 times 30 minutes per week, and that literally is the highest it's been in terms of so far. It just went to 5 times 30 minutes per week, and it's not changed since. Food, 275 carb on a training day, 215 protein and 30 fat. Non-training day, 200 carb, 200 protein. And by the way, you see me looking over there because I'm looking at my laptop because I've made some notes. And then 35 fat. And then the actual cycle now, lipolytics have changed a little bit. So Clen is at 80 micrograms per day. So 2 tablets essentially. T4 still 100. Test 300, the same. Mast 400, the same. And that'll probably stay the same throughout this whole prep, which generally it will. And then, but the anabol's in now, 50 milligrams per day. And that got put in 2 weeks ago. So essentially anabolic will just help with giving that full dry harder look as I get leaner, so, and also it does help with pumps, definitely. So yeah, that will stay in now for the remainder of prep, pretty much probably until we get to the point where we're just about to go on stage, and then yeah, that's probably going to stay in for the rest of the prep now. But I'm not the one in control of this side of things, I'm just doing what I'm told, so that will just stay until it needs to go, until I'm told it needs to go. And steps have just been at a baseline the whole time of 12 to 15k per day. So that hasn't changed. That's generally how many steps I get in naturally anyway. And right now I do need to get some steps in. So once I've recorded this video, that is exactly what we're going to do. And I need to make some meals as well. And to touch on that, we are going to be recording a high day tomorrow. So I will be touching on that. It is my first high day today. The second one is tomorrow. The reason for these high days, I will cover that in the video, which I will upload whenever. I will upload after this video, but yeah, but essentially the high day has been put in for a particular reason, which I'll cover in the video. So please do make sure, if you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe to the channel, like the video, because we are going to be doing a full day of eating on the high day, so you get to see what I'm eating on a high day and why we're potentially doing a high day, and also you get to see me train at Ultraflex Derby. So yeah, that's going to be another video in itself. But yeah, that's essentially what I'm doing now, guys. So if obviously that's how I've dropped 26 pounds in 10 weeks, but everything's been meticulous. Every single day things have been the same. Whenever a change has been made, I've put it to action. And I feel like what you need to realize is, if something is not changing or something is not working, something might need to change. It's simple, but it's not easy to do. It's either going to be cardio, it's either going to be steps, or it's either going to be food. Is food too low and you can't pull it any further? Right, food probably needs to go up for a little bit then. You might need to have a couple of high days to sort of resensitize your body and get yourself in a position to pull back down again. Or are you in a position where you're eating a little bit too much and just need to pull back down? Are you doing any cardio at the moment? Can you do some cardio across the week? Like, these things matter. Do you have the time to do any more cardio across the week? Because sometimes people might need to get up a little bit earlier to do some cardio. You might need to split up your day a little bit, go do cardio in the morning, train in the evening. At the moment, all I've been doing is doing cardio after my session for the most part. There's been the odd day where I've been doing it in the morning, but I've actually felt fine to be able to do it post-workout. But I also know when I start to die a little bit, which you'll see probably in the next, 9 weeks out. So you'll see that in the next probably 5 weeks. Then yeah, I'll probably do it in the morning and split it up, because the last thing that I want to do is when I'm extremely hungry and I want a fucking meal post-workout is do my cardio. So I'll be then doing it in the morning, splitting it up, setting my day up nicely by just suppressing my appetite, having a bit of caffeine in the morning to get me going, keep my appetite at bay, do my cardio, get some steps in, and then I'll train later in the afternoon once I've had a couple of meals. But for now, we're cush there, we're chilling. We can just do training and cardio at the same point, because why the fuck not? Because we can get away with it. But yeah, that's everything that I'm doing now and what I've done to get from there to there. Camera moves. In 10 to 11 weeks. So yeah, steroid cycle, food, cardio, steps, everything that I've been doing. But like I said, this is what's worked for me after doing a meticulous off season. I say meticulous, there's been off-plan meals here and there, once a week for definite. But I mean, like, for the most part, I was eating towards the back end 4,000 calories a day, and we did that for at least 3 to 4 months and held it there, and solidified composition, solidified the sort of food that we was at, started to make sure that training performance held, so we could solidify the tissue and then step into the prep in a great position, which is what I didn't do last year because I just wanted to prep. But then it just made things 10 times harder. So I do want to put into perspective that if you are deciding to do a bodybuilding prep, the actual start point matters. If you're going from 0 to 100, you're going from not tracking your food, you're going from, or maybe half tracking across the week and then having a couple of takeaways here and there, not training properly, not really doing any cardio, not really focusing on your steps, you just throw yourself to the deep end, your prep is going to be a lot harder, especially if you're carrying more body fat and you don't really have a set timeline, a long enough timeline to shift it off. But if we are talking you've got a good start point, it just means you've got a bit of an easier time ahead of you, as long as the timeline's right, as long as the time frame's right, as long as changes get made at the right time, and also little high days and refeeds get put in at the right time as well if needed, because sometimes people will run themselves into the ground during a prep or doing a fat loss phase, when sometimes you need to push the food up to then pull back down again. But yeah, that is what I've done to lose 26 pounds over the last 10 weeks. If you like the video, make sure to like the video. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, do us a favour. It makes a massive difference. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.